everyone, and welcome to the Venture Playbook Podcast by SIA. This is the podcast where we dive deep into the world of venture building, innovation, and growth, speaking with leaders who are pushing the boundaries in their industries. I'm your host today, Emily Orlik. I'm an innovation manager here at SIA, and today I have the privilege of speaking with a brilliant guest, Sebastian Rahlf. Sebastian is a marketing and product leader with international experience in developing and launching B2B solutions across markets like Germany, France, and the UK. He's worked at the intersection of customer insight, product design, and go-to-market strategy, building offerings that actually stick. Along the way, he's also led global brand awareness campaigns and helped drive meaningful improvements in customer experience. Currently, Sebastian is working at the Allianz Trade headquarters in Paris as their global head of brand experience and product management. Sebastian, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Emily. Thank you so much for the introduction.
So tell us, what does innovation mean to you and in your experience?
That's a big question to start off with, right? I think innovation to me is probably the small things and the big things. So whenever I worked on innovation throughout my career, it's always being on the big corporate side, which is definitely different than working in a startup, So to me, thinking about innovation, I think about small things when we talk about current products, because working at a big corporate like Allianz Trade, like I'm doing right now, we have loads of products already out there in the market that have been on the market for years. Allianz Trade has a brand or a experience of 100 years in the market. So obviously there are lots of products out there and we need to innovate on them. And then there are also the big things like actual product innovations and unforeseen or unseen market products on the market that we share. I think the one thing that both of them have in common, research, which is even more important in big corporates than in any other corporate, because you can be so far away from the clients. If you work like right now in the headquarters in Paris, I'm far away from the client. So it's important for me to keep in touch with the actual user of a product, so that I understand what the client need is. So that is the one thing what innovation means to me. So small things and big things, having the customer, keeping in touch with the customer. And then there's the third part. Innovation for me always requires to keep the framework in mind that you're working in. Super important for big corporates because there is lots of legacy behind it on the IT side, on the product side. And yes, innovation works on the greenfield. So when you really start something fresh, but again, you need to make sure that you understand where you're coming from and what are your actual capabilities, because not everything is possible at all times. You need to find the right timing and the right setup.
Absolutely. And that principle of staying close to the user is a forever important one, right, for innovators. And I love your point about how innovation still requires a framework and the importance of considering capabilities and timing, particularly in a big, complex corporate. So I'm curious to know a bit more about your experience of going from idea to launched solution to scaled solution.
Probably been a roller coaster. Probably, we all have that, right? We've all worked on innovation, so we know how much of a roller coaster it can be. But it literally is that. So when you start, I feel like you always have to be prepared for the unprepared. Again, when I look at the multi-scale products that I've worked on and launching in multiple regions, I always have to be prepared for the unprepared. And this might sound like a simple thing, but working in an insurance context, especially, you have lots of regulatory requirements that you need to keep in mind, and they change from country to country. So I'm very much reliable on the local experts to make sure that I understand what are their needs. And then again, how do I create that harmonized product? Because our interest is that we have that we always have harmonized products across all regions, because it's so much easier to manage if you're trying to roll it internationally. But then again, how much regulatory requirements do you have per region? How do you implement them in that product, and how much does it then suddenly change for the other regions? And is that possible? And the other thing for me is that no launch is like the other. So when I try you talked about the launches in UK, France, Germany, or Italy. Whenever I start something, I was like, okay, great. Now I think I got it. Like, I think we have all the things in place. Everything should work. This should be the easiest product rollout ever. And whenever I think that, it is suddenly the hardest product rollout that I had, because unprecedented things happen and things are like, why does nobody realize this before? And you see again in big corporates, I think there's a very big corporate, it's not a problem. It's really actually something quite valuable for big corporates. The local teams are so innovative, and they're so innovative when it comes to solving problems. So when we roll out the product and they stumble upon a roadblock, they simply just find a workaround, and that's brilliant. And they don't even tell me eventually, because they're like, we'll figure it out. Great, yeah, got that going. Then I launch it in the next market, and they're like, why is this not working? And I say, well, you're right, it should be working. I'm not sure why the other markets haven't found that out, and that is because they're so creative on their own. So that's always quite fun, figuring out the roadblocks along the way, being prepared for the unprepared, and then again coming back to the beginning of innovation process. Keeping in touch with the clients is so important. So regularly understanding what are they saying, keeping in touch with them, having calls with them, and working in a B2B environment is a little bit different in that context from my experience from B2C, because I feel like talking to B2C clients in a research phase is a little bit easier, because you talk about yourself as a person. But if I innovate in a B2B context, I need to find the right spokesperson on the client side, right? So I need to make sure that for example, we talk to the CFO, and that he talks about his needs that he has in his professional role. And that's not always something that people are comfortable with. They might, feel weird to talk on behalf of their company. So creating that safe space and that conversational environment is super important in early stages, so that people feel like they can share their personal opinion, which basically reflects their professional opinion, if that makes sense.
It does, yes. Creating that enabling environment, that safe space where people can feel free to share their challenges, their pain points, and explore opportunities in an objective way. And inevitably, there's this overlap between personal and professional, which I think also adds a lot of value to innovation. There's lots we could talk about here, but I'm keen to just change tack and talk about AI. What are you seeing in the insurance industry in terms of how AI is having an impact?
AI is everywhere, right? We all know that. We've seen it in our day to day. I think in my personal life, I'm starting to get annoyed by emails that are written by ChatGPT, because you can simply tell when they are written by them, or by it. So obviously there's that one part of the professional experience where it's starting to get a little problematic, annoying. I don't know if that's the right word, but for the insurance industry, there's obviously, in my view, loads of efficiency gains when it comes to AI. So when we're talking about fraud detection, understanding patterns, and using big data to really understand, is that claim valid? Is that unvalid? To need more attention, and in big data analysis as well. So the current company I'm working for is doing lots of data analysis. So obviously this will help risk underwriters across the insurance industry to focus on the things that are most important. And I think, so efficiency gains is one thing. If I think about the marketing part, so as you said, I'm also working brand and content marketing. Obviously, this has an impact as well. Insurance, again, as a industry, is quite regulated, especially in Europe. And or insurance players are usually quite cautious to make sure that all our regulatory requirements are being met. But I see that there is that huge shift, and that big players are jumping on it and really making sure that they get those gains off AI. And my personal feeling is that it's getting a lot faster than previous innovations that happened in the past decades. Usually in insurance was quite late on, but now I feel like, okay, the whole industry is starting to pace up and really meet those, or investigate those opportunities and go to market quicker.
So I'm hearing the huge potential for efficiency gains in insurance, the need to keep up with regulations and make sure requirements are met, and then the massive speed.
Speed is actually good. Yeah. I think speed in itself is just like the right keyword, right? B2B, or B2B corporates, they are moving more digital. I mean, moving digital sounds like we're early 2000s, but you know what I mean, right? All business models are becoming more and more digitized right now as well. And with that, all their backend processes need to be digitized as well. So we see a huge potential in e-commerce, B2B e-commerce, because you basically just have that need of B2B corporates now want to pay by invoice in an e-commerce business online as well, which they couldn't have done previously. So there is that huge thing. Whenever you move something online, you need to be faster. So the any decision that an insurance company takes needs to be so much faster. We're talking milliseconds. We're talking, we need to make sure that any online journey does not have an impact on it. And at the same time, insurance to me, specialized insurance for sure, is always going to be a product that needs explanation. And I never forget what my dad used to tell me when I was younger and like asked to sign my first insurance. It wasn't working for an insurance back then. My dad told me, listen, whenever you sign an insurance, you need to make sure that you have someone that you can choke in case something goes wrong. Sounds a bit abrupt, but you know what it is. Like with insurance, you still want to have that one person that you can go to. It's like, no, you said it's different. So that's why like we need to have that discussion around the claim right now. And I feel like that will not move away from insurance companies. Like that human touch is so important in a way that personally, I mean, I still know my insurance advisor and I talk to him, even though I mean, I know how insurance works. And I know how to read GTCs and I know what to look out for and what's important to have in a contract. But I still want to have my insurance advisor that I can have that discussion with. And I would want to have that in person instead of having it just over the phone. So yeah, I think even though there will be speed, there will be efficiency gains, there will be all that, there will always be that human connection in my opinion.
Yes, and I think many people would agree that it's that human touch that will remain, but let's see how things unfold. Maybe it will be different. On that note, thinking about the future, what do you think the next 5 to 10 years will hold for insurance?
It depends is my favorite answer to that one. Looking at it on a global level, I think we will probably see, again, wide insurance. I think ESG is going to be such an important topic, sustainability and how insurers work with it. To me, insurers have such an intrinsic motivation to stick to sustainability and make sure that actual climate change actions are being considered and take place. I think one of the main reasons is, and it's not the area that I'm currently working in, but if you think about natural catastrophes, floods, fires, etc. So standard property and casualty insurance lines. These are the ones that are affected the most by natural catastrophes. And if these increase, obviously claims increase, which has an impact on the bottom line of all insurance companies. And that means that they have that motivation of making sure that climate change actions stop. One school of thought is probably going to be a little too wide, but one idea is obviously, insurers could just drop out and say we're not insuring that line of that area anymore because we just don't see it's just too risky. And I don't think that's going to be sustainable. Speaking of the word, because I do believe that then again, highly regulated market, I do believe that regulators are going to jump in and jump on it and say, okay, listen, but you still need to provide some kind of cover. And you see those players on property and casualty as well that actually, go back to providing coverage in areas where it's currently quite difficult. But yeah, I think sustainability and sustainable products probably is going to be one thing that we'll keep seeing in addition to, e-commerce speed, thinking more about B2B financial insurance products. But generally, my view is on sustainability as well.
And how do you do innovation in such a large and international corporate environment? Could you share with us your experiences of this? What's important? What challenges you face?
I think stakeholder management and communication are probably the most important things in my view. One, because you have so many more players, right? Again, coming back to what I said at the beginning of the podcast in terms of innovation and startup, you are usually more like a small team, and you work together, and you can get everything out and quite fast. When it comes to large international corporates, I think the name already says it's large international. You have so many stakeholders that you need to make sure are onboarded, that understand what the idea is, and that follow through. So it starts with legal, tax, then talking to our operations teams to understand, okay, what are the IT requirements? How can we get that going over to the invoicing department, finance? How can we get those numbers? Then commercial reporting, the marketing teams, which obviously is also a very important part. So it's collaboration, but at such a large scale that you need to make sure that you have a good relationship to all your different stakeholders. Luckily, everybody I work with is brilliant at what they do, and they support every innovation that we want to go for. So that's really, really good. I do believe that comms effort is a little bit higher though, because you are working in different time zones, you're working in different countries, you're working in different locations. So communication is not always synchronized, but asynchronized, especially when we talk about time zones. So you need to find a way to be comprehensive, but also very much to the point. Because I can't always jump on a call because people are busy and they might not do just this one project at one point. So how to find the right channels and the right ways to communicate with them is of utmost importance. And I think the other thing is that in large corporates, it's not only one team that does innovation, right? It's not only me that works on product innovations in my company at Allianz Trade. It's loads of teams. There are loads of teams that have great ideas, and especially those that are close to the customer. Those are the ones that come up with the ideas. And then we need to make sure that we have the right channels, that they know who to talk to at corporate level, at group level, on a global level, on regional level, to push that innovation, but also to empower them. You can innovate, and you should innovate, and we want to hear your ideas. So next to the communication, the collaboration part is super, super important. And again, I said it with the customer feedback already, I guess, when we talk to clients. And it's again the same trust. So building that trustworthy environment that people feel comfortable to share their ideas, and then also challenge them in the right way and challenge them at the right level is super, super important. So yeah, I think those are the challenges to me. And those are the things that actually get me going every day, because it's the part of the job that I love the most. Trying to understand where people are coming from, talking to them, figuring out how to, move to the next step. I really love that.
One thing that we haven't mentioned yet, Sebastian, is Allianz's involvement in the Paris Olympics. Can you tell us a bit about that experience?
Yeah, we actually did. So we were sponsoring the Paris Olympics as part of Allianz. So we are the official Olympics and Paralympics sponsor, and obviously that is the 1 or 2 weeks. It was 2 weeks actually. First week it was raining quite a lot. Second week was brilliant, where the whole world got together, and it was basically that feeling. It's that Olympic spirit, trying to get things done and moving into that direction. That very much describes innovation in our company as well. And working on such a project, because I worked on a brand for my brand and content part of the role, was so when people were with such a big brand that everybody knows what the Olympics are, and it's just huge brand recognition. With that comes lots of rules and regulations, which again, working in insurance, no problems for me. And I can handle that, know how to work with them. And then just seeing all these things with the Allianz brand, that was incredible. It actually, I'm not gonna lie, it gave me the chills, and it's kind of weird to say that, right? But it actually was quite impressive.
Final question for today, Sebastian. If you could wave a magic wand and make a wish, what would you wish for?
I mean, the obvious answer is that are probably not related to this podcast or to the business, but I do have lots of wishes for my magic wand. Let's just say that. but speaking about innovation and speaking about innovation in my area that I'm working in right now, I just wish that OT systems would easily talk to each other. And that sounds really easy. But again, coming from a big corporate, think of all the legacy that we have, right? All the legacy systems, all these IT systems that have been built in different languages, have different connectors. When you do innovation, you usually do that obviously on the new IT platform, whatever that is, your new policy management system. But you still have like these old things happening all around. You'll have certain finance system, you'll have certain invoicing systems. Like there's so much around in a big corporate, and making these talk to each other would be something that I would really, really wish for, because trying to gather those data points one by one and trying to make sense of it sometimes is a little bit hard and difficult. And working loads with our operations team on that. They're doing a brilliant job in supporting me and making sure that everything is there. But me being on the business side, also understanding what is actually happening in the back end and making sure that, I know what I can do and where we face difficulties. I think my magic wand would really then solve that and say, okay, you know what, boom, whatever data point you want and however you want the systems to talk to each other, you just stick them together and that works. No matter how old, no matter how new. I think that would be my thing. One thing that would really help me innovate faster.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Sebastian, for joining us today on the Venture Playbook podcast and for all the fantastic insights. If people want to follow, connect with you, continue this conversation, what's the best way for them to do this?
I think they can just reach out to me via LinkedIn, Sebastian Rahlf. You can probably link it in the podcast description, and then I'm happy to jump on a discussion with people. Sure.
Great. Thank you, Sebastian, and thank you to all our listeners. That's it for today's episode. If you enjoyed the conversation and you're craving more, please do take a second to follow, like, and share. We will be back very soon with another brilliant guest, so stay tuned. And once again, thank you to you, Sebastian, for such a great conversation.